Have you ever had one of those days when everything just worked? The stars seem to align just right, and you find yourself basking in a bundle of blessings. Or then there are those days that nothing works, and you're surviving through those times when everything just seems to be actively working against you, and disasters right there on your doorstep. Does that stuff happen? Is it coincidence? Is it luck or bad luck? Or that might be what we think sometimes, but then someone else will tell you that there's someone working behind the scenes to fulfill your destiny. The truth is, those people would be right. But it isn't just anyone. There's a woman by the name of Esther who would understand. She's minding her own business as her people are captive in Persia. Meanwhile, there's a guy by the name of Haman who was one of the higher ups to the king of Persia, and he doesn't really much like the Jews, and he really doesn't like a guy by the name of Mordecai. Now, it seems Mordecai, by the way, is Esther's cousin and guardian, and he's not all that impressed with Haman either, and he won't bow down to Haman whenever he parades through the streets of Susa. Well, Haman decides to teach Mordecai a lesson. And he gets King Xerxes to sign this decree that on a certain day, all the Jews can be killed. And anyone killing one of the Jews, one of the Hebrews, would be allowed to keep the personal possessions of that deceased person, the Hebrew. Well, to determine the exact day when the Hebrews would be exterminated, Haman rolls the dice. And the 13th becomes the target date. And at the same time, all this is happening, the king's having some issues with the queen, and the queen refuses the king's summons, so she's released of her queenly duties. And then, because King Xerxes needs a new queen, he holds a contest to find a new wife. Now, the short story is that Esther wins the contest and becomes the queen. But here's the rub. Xerxes didn't know that Esther was a Jew, nor that Esther was kin to Mordecai. And the short story is that Esther gets the king to add another edict that will allow the Hebrews to defend themselves. That turned out pretty good for the Hebrews and pretty bad for any Persian that attacked them on the 13th. And Haman, well, in a strange twist of events, he wound up impaled on a pole that he himself had erected for Mordecai. Not sure he got the point of the story, but I hope you do, okay? And just kind of as a side note, throughout the entire book of Esther, you will never find the name of God mentioned, not once. There are days when you may think God's not around. The story of Esther reminds us that God is. Sometimes it's behind the scenes, working things out for good for those who love him. At least that's what Paul tells us in Romans. And when you don't feel that God's around, it's usually more your problem than it is his. See, God has put us right where we are. Right now, right here. And he's done that so that we can make a difference. We can say the words someone needs to hear. We can be the example someone needs to see. We can help someone find freedom from sin. So let others trust their luck. You and me, let's trust God and let God take care of it all. Amen?